Hey friends, I'm so glad you joined us again. This is How to Speak Nebraskan. All right, I'm excited to interview someone today who many people across the state of Nebraska will be familiar with. Alissa Harrington is currently Mrs. Nebraska and is getting ready to soon wrap up her year of service. She's also someone many people have seen on TV as news anchor for KSNB Local 4 News in Hastings. Aside from her job as a journalist and serving as Mrs. Nebraska, she serves on the board of directors for Choice Family Healthcare, a nonprofit healthcare clinic in Grand Island and Kearney. She's even been named the top 35 under 35 by the Grand Island Chamber of Commerce, and she's even initiated her own special day here in Nebraska called Read Across Nebraska Day as part of her Reader Today, Leaders Tomorrow program. There's no doubt Alissa seems to keep very busy, and I didn't even mention the fact that she's also married with 2 kids and she has a family, and a mom's life is never not busy. So I'm pleased to get to know better and visit with the amazing Alissa Harrington. So Alissa, how are you doing today?
Hi, Jeff. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. Like you said, very busy. It's been a busy day. We'll just say that. I'm been up since about 3 o'clock in the morning, so we're still going.
Oh my gosh. Have you always been kind of a busybody then?
You know what? I wouldn't say so. I mean, I guess I have always been kind of a busy person and an active person, a social person, that kind of thing. But to say I'm a busybody and like a real go-getter, I wouldn't have characterized myself as that in my younger years. But I guess
Gotcha.
that's what I am now.
You see, I mean, yeah, I mean, when I read that off, it's kind of a mouthful. So definitely have a lot going on for sure. So I kind of just wanted to start off. This has been an exciting year for you. You've served as Mrs. Nebraska, and that's kind of coming to a conclusion soon, right? Is the year about up? Is that right?
So normally it would be about up here this month, in fact, but the pageant for 2024 has been postponed just a couple of months. So that pageant will be happening June 22nd. Yep, that's right. June 22nd in Kearney at the Merriman. So put that on your calendars. But
Gotcha.
so I've got an extra couple months actually. So a 14-month reign, which is a little unusual, but I'm making the best of it and having a good time still. So it's been a busy about year and a half, in fact, with leading up to pageantry. Those first kind of 4 to 6 months of kind of prepping for Mrs. Nebraska were intensive as well, but it's been a great year, and I'm just so grateful for all the opportunities that Mrs. Nebraska has brought me, along with the other opportunities that I've had, throughout my career so far as well. So it's been
That's
great.
awesome. So actually, I kind of was curious. I was going to kind of go into that. So that's kind of a good segue. So you talked about how leading up to it, it's really busy. I am sometimes curious a little bit. How does a person prepare for something like that? Or at least what was your method? Do you feel like there has to be like a certain way? Was it like, oh, am I doing it right? Or or do I do it like your own personal way?
There are many ways to go about it. So we'll push back about 4 years ago. So I did run initially for Mrs. Nebraska in 2020. Now, the way that I look at it was 2020 was not my year. It wasn't meant for me. It wasn't meant to be. I had done pageantry in my early 20s when I was about 20 years old, my freshman year of college. I did my first pageant ever. I was kind of thrown into it. My dance instructor at the time had just taken over the Miss Minot. So it was a Miss North Dakota America pageant. And so you needed to get a preliminary pageant first to go in. So anyway, he comes into dance class one night and says, girls, you got to all compete for this pageant because I'm the director now for Miss Magic City it was. So anyway, I threw together some prom dresses and whatnot and competed. And I won that initial pageant, which I was surprised about. That I was very busy that summer. I wasn't expecting to compete for Miss North Dakota. I didn't win. I didn't really prep for it. And then I thought it was kind of done. Well, then cut to, my years now. And through my job, a lot of times I have a lot of different connections and things like that. And I do a lot of interviewing, of course. So then I've had different organizations knocking on my door to judge pageants. And they knew I had a little bit of pageant background as
Hmm.
well. So that's kind of where it started also. And then my husband's one of his former students, his mother was a former Mrs. Nebraska. Shout out to Sherry Ellsworth. I believe she was 2001 Mrs. Nebraska. And she
Nice. All right.
was like, come on, you should run. So anyway, in 2020, I thought, okay, my youngest child was a couple of years old by that point. So I thought, okay, I think now maybe I can try this. And so I went into it in my own way, and I did win two of the three categories I did win, but I wasn't ultimately the judge's choice, which that was fine. When I say it wasn't my year, it really wasn't meant to be my year. It was a short run, unfortunately, for that Mrs. Nebraska. It was 2020, like I
I was gonna
mentioned.
say 2020
So
wasn't anyone's year, so it probably all
no,
worked
the
out.
pageant was postponed three times, two times technically. So that third time we actually had it. And leading into it, being in news, I knew what was going on in the background. I'm saying to myself, because it was supposed to happen, I think, April 7th of 2020, something along those lines.
Oh
And of
yeah.
course, COVID was like here and starting to get crazy and things were starting to
Right.
shut down. And I was kind of in the background like, hey guys, I don't think we're going to be able to, unless we want no one there, I don't think you're going to be able to do this. Like, oh, behind,
Right.
shutting down. You are not going to have more than so many people at this. So it did start shutting down. They finally did have the pageant in August, but
Okay.
that cut the current Mrs. Nebraska's reign to only about 9 months, because they did have that next one in April then again. And my platform is about going to kids and reading to kids. And so that would have been really difficult for me to meet with children, because schools weren't really allowing people to come in like that. So unless it was via Zoom. So when I say that it wasn't meant to be and it wasn't my year, I do believe that. And I do believe that this was my year. So I kind of took some time off, wasn't sure if I was going to compete again. And then I reevaluated things and I thought to myself, you know what? If I'm going to do this again, I want this to actually be my year. I want this to be the final time that I compete, and I want to make it stick. So I decided to get a coach, got a pageant coach. I didn't have one before.
Nice.
Didn't think I needed one for things like for walk and for swimsuit. I really didn't need one, but to kind of have the total look, the kind of pageant look, it helps sometimes to have a coach. And then believe it or not, when it came to interviewing, I needed some coaching. I am used to being the interviewer. I'm not
Right.
used to being the one opening up and kind of, peeling back the layers of the onion, if you will. And
Right.
that's what you really need to do when it comes to pageantry and interview. You have a short amount of time for the judges to get to know you, and they have to really get to know you and get to know your purpose and your why and why they should pick you, and to kind of like fall in love with you and to make you their favorite. So that's what we really worked on. And that was very beneficial to me. So I kind of encourage anybody who's newer to pageantry, even if they kind of think they get it, I encourage them to get a pageant coach, because it's worth it, if you ask me. So it was worth it for me, definitely.
I bet. Well, and you talk about answering questions. I mean, you're right. You don't have much time, and you're in front of people and you're on a stage. I mean, that's different than even just being interviewed, kind of like this, where it's a little bit more casual,
Right.
or in a smaller setting. It's there's more pressure, right?
For sure, definitely. And those initial interviews, they were round robin. So you're doing a one-on-one interview for about 5 minutes with 4 to 5 different judges. And then on stage during the big pageant, you do an interview question out there live. But yeah, it is just different. And you've got this amount of time, and I can talk and talk and talk. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, put it in. All right, get to the point here, sister. So
Yeah, yeah. So now
that's
what
kind
have
of the big
been
part of it.
some highlights this year that you've had with it?
Oh boy, from the get-go, honestly, before I actually before I even went into competition, I was already, you know, acting as Mrs. Nebraska. So I was in schools in Grand Island, across the Grand Public Schools area. I think I went to about 8 different schools within a couple of months' time or less. It had to have been less than that, actually, as Mrs. Grand Island. So that was great, getting into the schools and really starting to get my program off the ground, Readers Today, Leaders Tomorrow. And then after that, being crowned was amazing. And then it was kind of the end of the school year, though. So that was kind of nice in a way, where I had the chance to kind of really focus on nationals. But we had a lot of fun in the summer. Parades, my family got a chance to come along with me for parades. Lots of different appearances. 4th of July was fun. The Seward Parade was so much fun. So was
I
the
bet.
land. That was a really cool one. Nebraska Land Days was great as well. That was a really big parade also. So those were fun. And then nationals was in August, and that was an amazing experience. It was kind of a whirlwind, a little stressful in a way, but
I
you're
bet.
you're really focused and you have a purpose and a reason for being there. I had family come from all over the country to support and some friends as well, which was amazing. I did end up winning Mrs. Fitness, so that was great. So although I
Yeah.
didn't take home the top award, I did win that award. So that was something great to bring back to Nebraska, and get out there on the stage and accept that award was really cool. So we did like the Elvis suite because we stayed at the Westgate Hotel where Elvis had his residency at and where he had a suite at. And so they've kept that as is. And that was really neat. Getting to go to all
Yeah.
the schools since, after that, then the school year was picking back up. So then I really had a chance to get back into schools and visit with kids. And it's always so fun to they ask the greatest questions, and then of course they want to talk about the crown and is it real, and so are you the queen of Nebraska, like questions like that. And then like it's always kind of awkward though talking to kindergarten and first and second graders about, so how did you become, what did you have to do to become Mrs. Nebraska? So talking about um evening gown. So, you have to show your poise in an evening gown. And then a swimsuit is, parading yourself on stage in a swimsuit, why you have to do that. So it's about showing your physical fitness and this and that. And of course, interview, can you talk? Can you speak in front of people? Can you get your point and your message across? Are you likable? That kind of thing. So it's kind of a different way to talk to kids about, pageantry when many of them don't know what it is. And so it's always kind of funny, but we always have a good time talking. And of course, I always leave them with my message about the importance of reading. And even if you have issues with reading, or any kind of obstacle that you face in your life, in your childhood, or as you move forward, that if you face it head on, if you go through that obstacle rather than trying to get over it or under it, just face it head on, that you'll be able to come out in a positive way on the other side. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and to kind of play off that just a little bit, yeah, that is really cool. And you have the initiative. It's called Reader Today, Leaders Tomorrow program. So I saw the video of you and your family at the Capitol when you sort of was like became like official and all this. And I mean, the Read Across Nebraska Day and everything. So you shared just a little bit that you're very passionate with the audience. You shared that you're very passionate about encouraging kids to read and the importance of it. And you said, but it also, you had some challenges with it, which is what makes it so near and dear to your heart. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like what kind of prompted you to become passionate about this?
yeah, so I grew up my whole life having issues with reading, not wanting to read out loud, honestly, having a true fear of reading. I had some dyslexia. I was not held back, I was sent back, actually, which is not something you normally hear about. So, a long story short, and I actually told this story to the Alpha Kappa Delta. It's an educational sorority of women across Nebraska. It's actually a nationwide one. And I spoke about this for the first time, actually just candidly, rather than, so a lot of times you'll talk on a piece of paper, or like not in a judging setting, and talking. And it was it's still different for me to talk about it because for so long I held it inside. I hid it from people. But so when I was young, started to realize that I had some real issues when it came to reading, and not just, little issues. I didn't realize that this reading class I was in was anything different from anybody else's, maybe special class, but it was. I didn't know that. Nobody told me it was in first grade. Well, then we moved to Florida in the summer, and you would think a kid going from North Dakota, from Grand Forks, North Dakota, to an island in Florida on the Gulf of Mexico, you'd think they'd love that, right? Well, I did not. I did not want to leave the life I knew, the only life I knew, all my friends. So that was, for one thing, devastating. And then starting out school, everybody, for some reason, was like way taller than me and were far more advanced, it turned out, than me. I mean, it showed immediately that I was struggling. And I didn't talk to my parents about it that I can remember. I just remember every day I would go to the nurse's office. I mean, suddenly everything I couldn't, it was like I couldn't read everything was a struggle for me. And it was about a month into that, and I was miserable inside. And about a month into it, my parents, we were actually playing on the beach. my parents sat me down and they said, we talked to your teacher and your principal, and what do you think about going back to first grade for the rest of the year? And I was elated. I was ecstatic. I was all about it.
Oh, really? You were excited about this.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to get out of that class like yesterday, like weeks ago. I did not want to be in that class because I was struggling so badly. I mean, every day I was wanting to go to the nurse's office saying I was sick, that kind of thing. I didn't want to be there. And that kind of thing can be it can be traumatic for a kid. So while I went back to first grade and things were fine, I did much better moving forward, but I always still kind of had struggles. And I didn't quite know. It was my parents, they didn't do the what you should do when it comes to when it's obvious that a child has a reading disability, has dyslexia. I think back then it was different where, oh, okay, well, we'll deal with this on our own. There are resources when have it clinically proven that you have dyslexia, which that's not what was the case with me. But there are things now, like when it comes to test taking, they'll modify the test and do different things for a student and that kind of thing, and help you with resources when if it comes to tutoring and that kind of thing. But a lot of parents are still that way where it's just, okay, well, we're just going to deal with this on our own and figure it out. But like I said, going back did help, and it did help me. I was more up to speed, but I did still have struggles, especially when it came to reading comprehension. And this carried on throughout high school. Reading comprehension, I'd read things and I didn't even know what I read. I wasn't understanding what I was reading.
Mhm.
Sounding things out, not understanding words, getting things flip-flopped a lot of times, or saying the wrong word, maybe them or their, interchanging words a lot, really doing that with numbers as well. And math was also a problem for me. So I just had these struggles always, is kind of what it all comes down to. And from that first year of second grade where, I was terrified in front of everybody because it was very much like pointing on somebody in class and get up and talk and that kind of thing. And so from that point, I still just had this fear and this terror about reading out loud in front of people. And just because of my reading struggles, I didn't enjoy reading. I didn't want to read. I didn't practice at it. And so that just continued to hinder me, I suppose. But that's common for kids that have a struggle with reading. They don't want to do it. You feel defeated by it. It's frustrating. It's not fun. So that I was always dealing with. I was really good athletically and I was outgoing and I made friends easily. And so I really kind of banked on the things that I was good at. I was good in music and that kind of thing. But so the parts of academics that I wasn't good at, I kind of would try and hide and I'd get through, but, I still always had that there. And it wasn't until when I really got into, even after school, after I was done with college and everything, it was really when I got into journalism where it was like, okay, even though I'm writing my stuff down, I'm still scared to read it out loud. I can ad lib like crazy and talk and
Right.
banter and do a live shot, no problem, and all this, and interview people, no problem. But when it came to a prompter in front of me, even what I just written myself, I was that fear, that 7-year-old fear was always coming back. And so I really had to just kind of fake it till I make it, positive self-talk and just repetition and just, it's taken years and still sometimes there's always that in the back of my head that's like, you're not good at this, you're not a good reader, I shouldn't like just these weird, negative self-talk things that happen, these anxieties, panicky type things, can come into play. And so my thing is, as much as I can, I don't want any kid to feel, and still at 37, be dealing with stuff that affected them at such a young age to still be affecting them now when it comes to reading and literacy and academics. So I feel if I can share my story and talk about it with kids and let them know that, hey, I dealt with, maybe you're dealing with the same thing, or maybe it's math, or maybe it's something else, or maybe it's soccer, maybe you love soccer, but you just can't seem to get that, kick into the goal the way that you want to. If you keep practicing at it, working at it, talk to your coaches or parents or teachers, the more they'll help you, and the more you work at it and practice, the better it'll get. And there have been a lot of kids, a lot of parents, in fact, that have talked to me and have thanked me. And that's what I'm really wanting to do here, is just help others as much as I can. And honestly, it's been helpful for me because it's been therapeutic. And so when it came to the Capitol, to that being kind of a full circle moment, a lot of times we do the Read Across Nebraska Week, and I'm heavily involved with that, or Read Across America Week, sorry. And that coincides with like Dr. Seuss Day, like Read
Yeah.
Across.
Uh-huh.
And I looked into it and I didn't see that Nebraska had a Read Across Nebraska Day. So I was like, well, we got to change that. And so having some connections that I do, I get press releases and different things and whatnot from Governor Pillen's office. And I emailed one of the gals back and I said, hey, I'm trying to figure this out on your website about these proclamation days. I don't think you have one. Am I going about the right way? And she said, yeah, just fill it out. You can even just email it to me, the proclamation that you'd like to say, and we'll see about getting it through. Because I know that Governor Pillen and his wife, Suzanne, they're very involved and champions of child literacy as well across our
Okay,
state. So,
great.
so they were all for it. So on March 12th, we went to the Capitol and did the official signing. And I spoke in front of the rotunda, and then Governor Pillen did the signing. We took photos and all kinds of stuff. And he was like, it was so funny because as we were taking the picture, he's like, I bet you never thought you'd be doing what you're doing today and be here. I was like, no, I never did. I never thought that would,
Yeah.
kid. It was always what I wanted to do from a young age. I wanted to get into journalism and broadcasting, but just the challenges that came along with it, I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it really has been a full circle moment. And so now every year on March 6th, that first March 6th will be Read Across Nebraska Day. So I
Okay.
intend getting kids in doing that. And I forgot to mention, as part of Readers Today, Leaders Tomorrow program, I also gift a brand new book to each first grader that I read to. So that's a big part of it as
Oh,
well. So I've had sponsors for that. Tom Dinsdale Automotive has been my main sponsor for that so far. So, but I'm always looking for more sponsors for that.
yeah, I bet. You
So
can always
goes
use more
along.
sponsorship.
So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
cool.
so
Well, what a
back
cool
to you.
moment. Yeah, I mean, that is so awesome that you have not only been able to really work through that and kind of now sort of bring it to the forefront, but I think so much when we have these doubts and we have these struggles in our own life, you tend to think if you feel very alone in it, right? I mean, I think we all do in those
Oh yeah.
moments, and it's great that you've been able to share that and that parents and kids have been able to hear like, oh gosh, look at you, you're in journalism, we see you on TV, you're doing all these awesome things, and you struggled with this too, and so I'm glad to hear that's therapeutic for you, and I'm sure for them it's the same type of response too.
hmm And yeah, it is something that it's we feel shame in these kind of things and our downfalls. And these weren't even things that I shared with my parents, the fact that I didn't want to read, that I had this honest, I mean, this is where, things like, and I'm glad that we talk more now about mental health and anxiety and panicky things, because this is what was going on for me, but I didn't even realize exactly what it was for years, that I was, these feelings that I was feeling, that's what it was, that it was, having like kind of an anxiety attack in the
Yeah.
moment about, having to do that. And I know a lot of people have that, whether it's a fear of just speaking in front of others in public, or and maybe for me it was just more of the reading aspect of it, but that can bleed into other areas too. And so
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, as you were talking about that, you also then talked about how you always had an interest in going into journalism. So it is kind of funny that you do read in front of people now on public television,
I
which
know.
is really there's a lot of irony in that. But what made you start out in journalism? Kind of what prompted you to want to do that?
Oh my gosh, when I was a kid, I've since I was little, so I've always been nosy, okay? So there's that. And I've always enjoyed writing. So, but my parents always watched the news, local news, national news. And I remember my grandma, she would as well. So like watching the news was common and normal in my household. And my grandma would always then watch the local 10 o'clock news and like the evening news and stuff. And I would go downstairs after, and when I'd stay at her house and stuff, because we'd do like weekend sleepovers or whatever. And she had this like, they had this bar downstairs with this mirror, like, your old school, like, basement bar type thing.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and do my own newscast and like, like this up at the bar, and then, just blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what I was saying, probably just making up gibberish. But then we had classes. So there was that. I loved that. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And then we had some classes like where you would do the announcements, and I would see the kids. It was like the fourth and fifth graders, or some. It was like or fifth and sixth graders did the announcements. And this particular school, I was just about to get into fifth grade, and then we moved again. We moved a few different times when I was a kid, so there was that. But so I was about to go into this class or into the grade where we could do the announcements, and I was going to be doing announcements, and then I wasn't able to. So I was like, oh, shoot. So in high school, though, we did have a multimedia class, and I took that all throughout. Yes. So anytime I love when I see schools that have journalism and multimedia courses and things like that. And there's a lot of schools around here that do. Even my kids, their middle school has, they do like every like Friday, they'll do a little like 5-minute newscast or 10-minute or whatever. So I love to see that because that's really what solidified for me that this is what I want to go into. So we did all kinds of different stuff, editing and writing and, interviews and putting together little packages and all kinds of stuff, on homecoming week and all different kinds of stuff. So that's really what solidified it for me. And then that's what I went into for school afterwards, after high school. So.
Okay, nice. That's really cool. So now, okay, I'm always curious for people who are on the news, what their process is like in getting the news together, getting it organized for the day, all of those things. I'd imagine there's some other people kind of behind the scenes that are helping you with it and all of that. So you do the early morning news, you do the midday news. Is like, do you sort of like after midday news, like have to like stay and kind of get organized for the next day, or do you just show up extra earlier? Like how does one go about like organizing what you're going to talk about?
So it all depends on your station. So our station, we have an overnight producer for our morning show. So he comes in at about midnight. And
Wow.
yeah, and I have done that shift numerous times because if, producer's out or if we no longer have a producer, and
Right.
then other
Someone
people
has
are
to
having
do
to
it.
fill in. So I have done the shift numerous
Oh,
times.
shoot.
But it's coming in at about midnight, and you kind of see what happened in the evening. So a lot of times when you've got that show, for us it starts at 5 a.m. and in central Nebraska you don't have a lot of breaking news happening overnight other than maybe national news. Honestly, you might have situations here and there. A lot of times for us, breaking news will be something like there's a bad accident or if there's a fire that's bad or things of that nature usually. So normally it's kind of gathering things from overnight, maybe other things that you can put together that haven't aired yet. That might be a press release about, this is, construction is starting in the morning on such and such road in this town that's going to affect people. Like a lot of times in the morning, we like to do things that people need to know that's going to affect them in their day, like coming up that day. And of course, weather is always a huge component of that as well.
Absolutely.
But we have an overnight producer. So usually when I get in there, there's not a lot that I need to do unless breaking news has happened or if there's like crazy weather stuff going on. Then a lot of times like we'll come in early to help out. And we do have a morning reporter now. That position is kind of ebbed and flowed. We're in a small medium market. So, our what we have and don't have changes, from month to month, year to year. So our staffing situation can vary. But right now we have a morning reporter, which has been great. So I don't have to go out in the middle of the night and shoot the stories if there's breaking news. But I do have a co-anchor as well, which I've been the steady for almost 7 years on the show. So I've had now 4 different co-anchors on the show with me. So, when one
Okay.
leaves, it's me by myself for a while. And then, you can't really take any time off or have a sick day because it's hard to find someone to fill in last minute at, 5 and 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. But anyway,
Right.
that's a whole other topic. But anyway, so normally the show is laid out for me. And a lot of times in the morning, 5 and 6, it's things that might carry over. We do national news, we do consumer news, we do health stuff in that 5 o'clock show. 6 o'clock is more like a little bit more talky. We have birthday club in there. We do a Facebook talker where at about 6:30, we bring the viewers in on Facebook Live and we have a different Facebook topic that we talk about on Facebook Live. And then that's a
Nice.
segment as well. Yeah. So that's a little bit more of a chatty hour. But so that's kind of the 5 and 6. And then our reporter always has like a news story as well. But then I produce the 11:30 midday show. So from about 8:30, 9 o'clock to about 11 to 11:15, I'm producing that show off and on while doing some other things as well. But
Oh, wow.
so I put that show together myself with a little bit of help here and there, if I've got a reporter. But so a lot of times, we'll grab national stuff as needed. Like I said, in our 5 o'clock show, we do consumer health, entertainment, things like that. So that stuff you grab from your different national sources, and we've got a couple of those that we can grab content from. But then otherwise, it's ourself writing it, or it's our reporters, throughout the day as well. So that's kind of how it goes. But for midday, I write most of that content just because of our reporter shifts. They're usually busy or have something going on, unless they can go live for me or something like that. It's usually kind of on my shoulders. So I'm pretty busy writing. And a lot of it is, your crime beat. So they'll come out with, like, we do a lot of Tri-Cities news. So meaning Grand
Yeah.
Island, Hastings, and Kearney. So that will be your what's new on the police bulletin. So kind of, and normally we stick with felonies, and they have to be pretty serious for me to put them into my show. And that's kind of how I am. That's my journalistic ethic there. It's like, it's got to be serious for me to plaster somebody's name and face all over the news. And then not just that, but then it's all over the websites, and then it's all over social media. So for me,
Right.
I feel my journalistic integrity is that it's got to be something serious in order to run with it. So I'm not like, oh, just because somebody else is running with it. And I'll fight for that. Like, if I don't think that it's worthy for my show, I'm like, you know what? You put it, if you guys need it that bad, you can put it somewhere else, but I'm not putting it in my show. Like, I will fight for
Yeah.
that. Because that's just how I am, because we're all human, and these are local people and they're local families, and that affects people to see something like that. But at the same time, we have a duty to tell people what's going on, what's happening. But I'm a little, when it comes to crime beat, I'm a little, that's not my favorite. But so
That's really great to hear you say it. That's very refreshing because I'm sure there is kind of this fine line, but the fact that you kind of came up with, okay, if it's like bad enough, like we have to report on it. You can't like not say something sometimes. On the other hand, sometimes like I like what you said. People are human. We're all human. People make mistakes, and do we need to shame them anymore? Especially when we're in these communities where a lot of people do know each other too.
yeah, it is. It's a tough thing when it comes to a smaller market, smaller news, because yeah, that is the case. And unfortunately, there've been people that I know that it's like, oh, well, here we are. And it's like, oh, you don't want to have to talk about it or say it, but in some cases, in some instances, you just have to. And that's the unfortunate part about it. But there's things about all jobs that we don't like. But at the end of the day, like I said, if I find it that, yes, okay, this needs to run, it's newsworthy, then, we run it, because that's our job, and that's our duty to the public. I can't hide something just because I don't want to talk about it. So,
Right, exactly. Okay,
yeah.
so as you're talking about, you're producing the show, you're writing and getting it organized. That's I'm sure a lot of work, but yet at least you know what's you're writing down, so you know what you're going to be talking about, which I'm sure is great. But I do just have to ask another curiosity I sometimes have for people who do the news. So, you have to do all these things to be prepared, of course, for what you're going to talk about, and the kind of the flow of it between you and maybe like switching over to the weather or sports or whatever other like kind of topics are being covered. Have you had any moments though where you were getting ready to go live and like this just like you lost the script or something happened and you were just like you had only a few seconds to like get ready and just pull yourself together? Has that happened?
Oh, yes. And it's always for midday. It's always for midday. Like, midday is like the bane of my existence. And that's my show. Like, that's the one that I write and put together, because it's like all new content. And the thing about it is, when I say that I start that show at like 8:30, thing is, you don't get really press releases that are of any like substance, don't really come out till like 10 o'clock. You don't get a
Oh,
lot of good stuff. You can't get, say I'm needing to talk to Grand Island Police. I really need to know a little bit more about this story or this subject matter to really figure out, because those police bulletins, they can be very vague. And so it's like, okay, I need some more info. So I might not hear back till 10:30 or something like that. So it's sometimes it's all of a sudden like boom, and you're like, okay, I've got an hour to get like all of these stories done. And I don't want to even get started on the unicameral because that has also been,
I
I am
bet.
so glad that it was the last day of session. Yesterday was horrible for me because literally yesterday was one of those days where everything, so this story is like the way that we have things, so you can write in scripts like up to the moment, like somebody else can be writing in a script, but then it trips your prompter. So I'm on my first lead story, and somebody was trying to fix something, and it flipped my prompter and flipped it again. And I'm like,
Oh
okay. And I said
no.
it out loud, I'm like, I'm just gonna have to read down on my iPad because my prompter just keeps
Oh, shoot.
flipping, going crazy. I'm like, what is going on? So like that does happen. And today was stressful with unicameral because so we've got a system where we can record in from um, Nebraska Public Media the whole recording of the unicameral sessions, which is great, but they talk nonstop for 2.5 hours. So I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
what? Wait, and if I'm also especially like say like somebody that helps me sometimes, our assignment editor, she was gone today. So I was like, all right, well, I'm having to monitor this and kind of keep one ear towards it, but also having to work on other stuff at the same time. So I'm like, okay. And then the one time where I had to just like mute it finally because because I also edit my video and sound for other stuff. And so I can't like edit video and sound while there's other sound going because I just can't hear both. So I had to,
Right.
then all of a sudden my news director comes out and he's like, did they just vote on LB 388, which is the big property tax package, which is like Pillen's like,
Oh.
I want this through, type thing. I'm like, I don't know. I just now had to mute the first time in like 2 hours. I don't
Shoot.
know. So now I'm trying to figure out like what's going on here. No, they decided not to vote on it in general. So there could be a summer special session, which I'm assuming will happen, but we don't know that for sure. But because they were talking about it a lot. And that was kind of like a big part of it was about that. But yeah, so it can be kind of wild and crazy. And there's all kinds of stuff. Luckily, technology has gotten a lot better. We're at the compared to years prior, because I've been doing this for like 12 years now.
Okay.
And earlier on, like we had some different kinds of technologies. And I've been at a few different stations now. Like I was at NTD, that's where I started in Kearney. I was also in Omaha at WWT for a while, but I was at NTD 2 different times. And when I started there, they weren't digital yet. So we were like tape to tape, like putting tapes in, like you had to have the tape queued up for your like video and sound stuff to go through. So
Oh
like I
wow.
was like putting that through. That was like one of my first jobs, and I edited video and stuff there. And the player was getting so old that it would just like start like fast forwarding or rewinding on you at random. So like maybe
Oh
that video
gosh.
was just about to go on, and they would like trip and like go back or forward you're like, what?
Oh
So
no.
yeah. So like I feel like error and issues like that happened a lot more often back in the day. I hope anyway. I hope people notice fewer mistakes or don't notice as many mistakes now. Because I feel like at least in my shows we don't have as much of that. But things can happen. Television is live, so that's part of the fun in it. Like it's always something new. It's always different every day. Even though it's like the same thing, it's always different.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I love about it too. It kind of keeps it fresh for me. But yeah, there's been, so like I said, yesterday was like one of those moments, but now it maybe used to frazzle me more, but now it really doesn't. I'm just like, okay, just got to keep it moving. You just got to kind of just, I guess, think fast or just try not to let it trip you up or just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to use that adrenaline in a positive, I guess, like internally switch the gears and like mentally be like, okay, we just need to do this. That
Right.
makes
Yeah, I kind of learned to live within the chaos just a little
sense.
bit. And you're right.
Yes.
And you're right. I think getting used to that, for most people, it only comes with experience. Like you have to live through it really stressful when you maybe in your younger days, and it's only through years of dealing with it that you're like, okay, we're gonna survive. We'll be fine. It's just you got to manage it.
And maybe some people, and there are some that are just naturally great at it and whatever, and kudos to them, good for them, but not everybody's that way. But yeah, I mean, and you don't know how you're going to react in a situation until you are in that situation. So sometimes it
Right.
is just being in that situation. But luckily, if there's prompter issues, I have an iPad that sometimes is queued up to where I need it because that's another thing. It's like going through it, like you got to keep if you want
That's
to make
true. Got to
sure
scroll
goes
as you
out.
go.
right, then you got to make sure that you're there. And sometimes that's not always the case. So it's like, and you might not have the best technology. Our iPads are getting kind of old. So it's like, okay, let's go here. And sometimes like, all right, you got to kind of tap dance a little bit, but as much as you can, you just don't want to see it. You just don't want to let the audience see you sweat.
Right. Absolutely. So now earlier you were saying something else I had noticed. I got on your like your Facebook, your professional Facebook profile page through the local news and all that, and you had all these things posted about getting ready to interview someone or stories. What I noticed when I looked at it, and you just alluded to this a little while ago, is some of the Facebook Live stuff that you do. And it was really interesting. I took, I mean, your phone or iPad, I'm assuming your phone, and you set it up kind of off to the side, and you said hi or said a kind of a few words, and you went over to the desk. So it was like the side view, and
Mhm.
it showed you talking to the camera, and then actually like sort of behind the scenes, like sort of like when you take a break and you switch over to the weather, and then it comes back to you, and all that. How did you decide to start that? That was kind of
Okay,
interesting.
so that is the Facebook Live that I was talking about. So I discovered cross posting is what happened. So we've been doing the Facebook Lives um, during our 6 o'clock segment, the second half, since before I was there. So we're probably talking like probably it's been going on for like 8 years, Monday through Friday, every day for like 8 years. Which there's been times where we're like, do we get rid of it? Do we change it up? Do we do something different? Do we need to refresh this? And it just seems to keep working. And we are able to come up with a topic every day somehow. And so we just keep, and we get viewer engagement from it. I can't tell you how many people come up to me and are like, I watch you on the Facebook Live. Like, really?
Really?
So we get engagement through it. So it's kind of hard to stop. And we're the only station that we know of that do that still do it. But anyway, so I started at about 6:30 and it's on one of our station phones and I have a tripod that I set up and I type in the topic and we post it on our local 4 Facebook page, but now I cross post it onto my page as well and
Oh, okay.
Onto Canopy News 2 because we now carry News 2 carries us during the 5 and 6 o'clock now because they no longer have a morning show. So we're sister stations. We're owned by the same company. We have a very unique situation where like our hub is in Lincoln at 1011 as far as production goes. So we actually
Oh,
don't have in-house production anymore. Since Gray took over, Gray Communications owns KNOP in North Platte. They own Local 4 News in Hastings. They own 1011 News. They own WWT News in Omaha. And they also own out in Scottsbluff. They own a station out there. But anyway, so it's like owned by the same company. So they were like, well, we're just gonna like make everything over here. Not for WWT though. They do their own thing on their own. But for the 3 of us, anyways, 4 of us actually, we're all like in a way like
hmm.
more than just sister stations in a way like we like can drag over each other's content um from our news system if we want to, so it makes it really,
Interesting.
yeah, so it can get like really, I mean if a person want like, but I don't do that, but we can like share content that easily. But anyway, so now we also air, and this only started about a month and a half ago, that we are now also our morning show is in North Platte because they no longer have a morning show there for their station. So now
Okay.
that's when I started the cross posting. Like you're gonna have to cross post to them because they're gonna be like, what are you talking about? This Facebook Live? Like we don't see you on Facebook. So we put it
I
on
see.
NOP News 2 now as well. So I was like, oh, put it on mine also. Why not? What the heck? So it is a behind the scenes look. It's a different look at it. And sometimes I'm not able to give a lot of time to the Facebook Live if it's really busy. And sometimes it's like a lot of chaos. And sometimes I kind of wish that people didn't see that part of it. If I'm having to kind of have like a quick like conversation with my
Yeah,
producer,
I
they're like,
bet.
okay,
Here's the
like
deal. Not
we're
every moment in our jobs is meant to be viewed by other people, right? Whether it's a conversation
right.
or a stressful moment, whatever it is, or just an off day, so I'm sure.
But I'm pretty well at that's the thing though, and some struggle with this more than others, but it's like at the end of the day we're professionals and this is our job, and even if we are having an off day or not feeling well, the audience shouldn't be able to see that, like let's not let that come through so much because that just kind of makes it probably uncomfortable and awkward. And that's just what the job entails. Like that's what you have to do. You have to be on and you have to, but yeah, I will say that, some days aren't always great.
Yeah.
And I'll be
Yeah.
honest, like if I'll be honest with Facebook Live, but I don't think I've ever really, it's not been that bad, but sometimes I'll just kind of be like, oh, it's one of those mornings or something like that,
Right.
And they can kind of tell you like, wow, you're really busy today. But then at the same time, if I'm over here like typing away, say there's breaking news happening, or I'm doing this, that, or we don't have floor directors or anything like that. We have robotic cameras, and those have all the camera moves are actually coded. They're done by a code. Which is done by our directors. So they code all the camera shots that the producer like makes. So the producer makes all the, you're going to be on camera and then it's going to go to the video. But that has to be coded by the guys in Lincoln or the gals, and those camera shots.
Really?
Yeah, those camera shots. Sorry, my phone leaked out. Those camera shots are coded. Everything's coded that we do. So we don't have camera operators in our studio either. So it's like if a guest comes in and needs to be set up, usually I'm doing it just because I'm the quickest about things. I'm very like personable with people, and a lot of
Yeah.
times people have stuff going on. So I just kind of get in there and like, hey, if I can, I might be busy or whatever, but I'll get them up on set, get them mic'd up. Sometimes I'll ask for help, but I just find it, and maybe I should ask for help more, but I just find it's just more efficient for me just to do it myself.
Yeah. I get that.
So I'm kind of running around, and then it's like, 10 seconds, I need to be over here, and then, talking about this, that, or the other on camera. So it's like I am literally all over the place during that
I
show.
bet. I bet. So okay, you said it's automatic. Interesting. So how do you know it's gonna switch from you over to is Travis is a weather guy, is that right?
Hmm.
About one of the weather guys. Okay, so how do you know it's gonna like kick it over to you? It's not a person doing it, it's like robotic. So is it like a light flips on or off so you know when you're on versus when he's gonna be
Yeah.
on or somebody else?
And I'll know when I'm going to be on anyways. Like I know when we have weather and when it's going to get tossed to me. Like we can see the scripts, like we know, but sometimes, plenty of times that your camera, you're reading on a prompter and all of a sudden, bye bye goes your camera. And then, but they'll sometimes do another one. They'll just kind of like turn and read off the other camera. But that's like I'm not on camera now. Sometimes there are mistakes once in a while, and it might, but that hardly ever. That's maybe happened only a few times, and then you just kind of make a joke. It's like, oh, there that went because everybody sees the camera. It's like, oh, you just got a nice view of the whole studio.
Right. Oh my
but
gosh.
but so that is like a part of taking out that human error a little bit or whatever, because those are coded. It's a specific code, and unless the system's glitching or doing something weird, our guys are great about having the right code and having everything how it's supposed to be or whatever. But we just know. I don't know how to explain everything's set up, so it's like that pretty much when you're reading, when you're on camera because of a certain, it'll say cam 14, Alissa, and then it'll be on you and there'll be a light. So
Gotcha.
that that's normally how but usually you're going, but then like you can also, because we read it, normally I try and read through my stuff ahead of time as much as possible. I was a lot better before, but luckily now I've gotten better at not needing, like I can read blind a lot better, that's something I'm
Right.
proud of because that was like my thing, like,
Well, yeah, exactly. You kind of overcome that. So,
yeah. But depending on the script and depending on who's writing it, like that can, if you don't get a chance to read it ahead of time, because that's the thing we have so many people that write, their own stories, the reporter stories or different producers. Everybody, you're taught to write a certain way, but at the same time, everybody has their own writing style and their own
right.
kind of cadence. So like if I'm writing a story, I'm going to write it for my cadence and the way that I like to write and talk. So a different anchor might change that up a little bit, from the way that I write it. So sometimes if you're not able to get into those stories, and sometimes national stories are written kind of weird too, or what have you. So they can be a little like, I need to change this, or I want to, make it more my style. So you run into that if you don't take a look at stories ahead of time. But especially if you're doing it on your own, like when I anchor on my own, 2 hours of content, that's a lot. That's a lot to look over. So
No
normally a lot
doubt.
of times I'll look over it like this segment beforehand or like a couple segments before. I'm always like a couple steps ahead, usually if I can be. But
Yeah. So it's kind of floating up in your head a little bit, kind of getting ready for it and everything. Yeah, I get that. So now okay, when you go out, you're obviously you'd be a very recognizable person since people see you on the news a lot and everything like that. So do people say hello to you a lot wherever you go or
yeah, the best is when they call me by the wrong name, but are like very much like, Melissa, I watch you every morning. And
Oh,
I'm
really?
serious. This one gentleman that whom love him to death, but he always calls me Melissa. And I'm like, my name comes
Nice.
up twice at show, and he thinks my name is Melissa, and I just let it go. Like I'm at this point, I'm not correcting him. But um, so that's always funny when they're like Melissa, or it's like Melissa, I watch you every night. Like I'm not on at night.
That's so funny.
Um, but yeah, or they always ask me the weather. And I think that's just people's go-to maybe because they know that I'm not the meteorologist because they'll talk about Travis or whatever. And it's now what's funny is that my mom's moved here. She moved here a few years ago. Now she's a part of this like gals group or whatever. And they were all like, we watch Alissa every morning. Oh, this is Alyssa's mom. You're Alissa Harrington's mom. And she's like, oh my God. Then I got so embarrassed. Now I'm like this celebrity. I'm like, oh mom.
Right. Well, I was gonna
Like,
say, so
okay.
do your kids like are your kids at right now, do they think it's like cool that mom's on TV? Is it awesome or are they already getting used to it or how do they kind of talk about that?
They that part isn't as big of a deal for them. They get it, but what's been the cool thing, at least especially for my son, is that I'm Mrs. Nebraska. That's been the thing. Even yesterday, my daughter, we were at Sam's Club in line, and this lady's helping, and my daughter goes, "Do you know that my mom's Mrs. Nebraska?" And like this lady probably doesn't even know what she's saying. I just say, "Oh, don't listen to her." I was like, ignore her. But there was a funny one where but my son's been so into it for some reason. My kids are they just turned 6 and 8, so they're kindergarten and second grade. And my
Okay.
son so all about it. This over the summer, we have this area where we've got this stop sign that it's a weird stop sign, okay? But we all stop, and it might be a little bit of a roll of a stop. Anyway,
Right. A pause.
I heard this sheriff on me. I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, we I'm sitting there getting pulled over, right? Like I'm
Oh
like, when's the last
shoot.
time that happened? Yeah, with my whole family in the car. My husband's in the seat, my kids are in the back. We're heading to the lake. And anyway, he comes up and my son's back there. Do you know this is Mrs. Nebraska? This is Mrs. Nebraska. I'm like, Leo, like not the time. Like, oh my gosh. Luckily, I just got
Nice.
a warning on that one, but it's like, oh my gosh. So they tend to think like that's cooler right now, but they, but they get it. My husband, so it's a morning show. So by the time that they get up, and a lot of times like around 7 o'clock, it's already done, and they don't really see midday because they're in school unless it's on the in the summer. So they don't really see it a lot. My husband will watch on his phone because we have a live stream and like he'll use the KSNB Local 4 app and he'll watch me there because he's around walking around the house upstairs, downstairs. So he'll just have it
Right.
on
Getting kids
his phone.
ready and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they see it that way more than anything. And then he'll put like the regular TV on for them and whatever sometimes. But so they don't like see it a lot, but they know that that's what I do. But I don't, I don't think people don't really come up to me as much when I have my kids with me, unless they like know me. But strangers will mostly come up like if I'm out at an event or something like that, or like at the grocery store, or sometimes I can just tell, like they'll give me this look. I'm like, and they just kind of like,
Hi.
yeah. So it's kind of a weird thing. It's still kind of weird getting used to, but yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
I appreciate people coming up because you know what? That means that they're connecting with us. It means that they're watching. And so I appreciate that more than anything. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, just a couple more things. I really appreciate your time tonight. It's been a lot of fun hearing from you and your experiences and your story and everything like that. So now, you got a couple more months left of the Mrs. Nebraska thing, and then it'll kind of move on. There'll be a passing the torch, I guess. So, do you know anyone else that's going to run, or did you get to know anyone else that like was part of the pageant? Is it like are you like friends with them or anything, or how does that work?
the ones that are coming to run are ones that have run.
Yeah, either. Did you get to know them very
Yeah.
well on, I guess, on
Yeah.
either side?
So it's really, from both from 2020 and now, honestly, our current director, and you interviewed her, Adair Reese. She
Yes.
was She was Mrs. Nebraska in 2019, and she was great. She was helpful to all of us girls in a certain way, because you can't be, and that's the position I'm in now. It's like you can't be like coaching or helping, but like helping with resources, or if it's like I'm a little overwhelmed, I just need someone to talk to, like type of thing. And that's what I'm kind of there for now, to help with for the girls now that are competing. But that's like what Adair was for me, and now she's our director. And that was a big reason actually why I came back, was she was the director, and I was like, you know what, like I really trust you. I love you. Like I definitely want to come back and compete in this organization now that I know that you're like fully running it on your own and all this stuff. So and the girls that I competed with last time are great. Like we've kept in touch, a lot of us. So we have a couple of other titles. So the runner-up actually, and this started back in 2020, the runner-up receives a title, and it's a part of the national organization. They do it for all states now, called Mrs. And it gets confusing because it looks the exact same practically, but it's Mrs. American. So Mrs. Nebraska American. And so
Okay.
then they also go to nationals as well as their own like pageant. But it's like a runner-up title. But it's still like you're, receiving some kind of a title anyway, right? And then
Yeah.
we also have Miss for America Strong, which is like that's newer as well within the organization. And that's just for like for misses. So it's just another like Mrs. pageant. So those girls I've gotten to know a lot because they have their own titles as well this year. So I've really gotten to know them. And then girls that have competed in past, like there was a couple gals that competed in 2020 that competed again this last year when I did. So getting to being around them. And then like former Mrs. Nebraskas have been really great. Like I mentioned, Sherry Ellsworth. And then there's another gal, Terry, and she was, I think 1988 was, and she's so helpful. I mean, she has helped with so much stuff when it comes to like helping setting up different appearances, perhaps like because she's got connections like in North Platte and Lincoln, whereas I don't really have connections there. So anytime that she's asked me about coming to going to things or help, and if I do go, she's there to help out. Like she was at the Capitol with me. So like, and Tosca Lee, she's an author. She's now that's someone that you should interview. She is a best-selling author like a few times over now. She has
Oh,
lots of,
really?
yes. She was 1996, I believe, Mrs. Nebraska. And she's an amazing author, and I've done stuff with her and spoke with her as well. And so she's got a great story also. So that's someone that you should talk to, just about, her being an author and all the stuff that she does and whatnot is crazy. But so yeah, just the connections like that and just the sisterhood and the legacy. I mean, so many formers are doing amazing things. We've got the gal that won my first year when I competed, Jamie Seaman, Dr. Seaman, she was Mrs. 2020, and she is an OBGYN, and she's got this big like brand herself with Mrs. Fit and Fabulous, and she's like the OBGYN for the Supernovas now for the pro volleyball team over
Oh,
in
okay.
Omaha. Yes, you should.
I remember seeing the press release when she was kind of announced with the team. I saw it on the news. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many former Mrs. Nebraskas and girls that have competed that are doing amazing things that should be celebrated as well. So it's awesome to be a part of that legacy and to continue that on myself. So
No doubt. Well, I've got kind of one kind of final question for you. So, you alluded to this at the beginning, and I was just curious. I mean, okay, so you had this cool opportunity. When you went to Vegas and you competed in the Mrs. America pageant, and you were named Mrs. Fitness. Did I say that correctly?
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, here's the deal. All of these women going to this pageant are amazing women. They're beautiful, they're successful, they work really hard. No one's going to go to a pageant and just not be in shape. So they're probably all working out. Yet you got Mrs. Fitness. How does that happen? What did you do to get the Mrs. Fitness title? That's so cool.
I guess they just liked my presence in a swimsuit on stage. I don't know. It's
That
I
simple,
can't,
huh?
I can't tell you. Yeah. Because it wasn't quite 50. I think we had like 47 or 48 women that were there, and everybody is beautiful. And I'm here. I am like hardly standing. I'm not even 5'2". I'm 5'1.5". Okay, that half counts. So and I'm in like the highest heels possible. So I can't compete with the sky high and the legs for days and all of that. But, I've been a lucky person to, I've always, I've had, a petite, athletic body type my whole life. That's just how I am. And I was a dancer and athletic and my whole life. And I've always stayed active for the most part. And so, I just kind of did what I was always doing, but did it just a little bit more, I guess. I was in the gym more and just maybe watching a little bit more of what I ate, but I wasn't needing to like lose any weight or do much. I think it was just really about like confidence on stage and just, I think they saw, a healthy, somewhat muscular body type that was confident. And I guess I just exuded that, I suppose. So I was not expecting it, but funny, interesting story real quick if you have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we went out. So my father, he passed away about 7.5 years ago, and he was a big impact in my life. He was a disabled veteran from Vietnam War, and he had lots of accolades, and he was an author after that. He did lots of great things. So he was one of those that I would look towards when it came to, somebody who went right through an obstacle because he had many of them in front of him. He was an amputee. He was a lower arm amputee.
Oh,
And
wow.
he did amazing things. So, I had that always in my life as somebody who was always facing challenges and obstacles and, doing amazing things even with that. So he loved the pageant stuff, and he would have loved, and he would have been, and what I'm doing in my job now, because I wasn't an anchor yet. I was a reporter at the time when he passed away. But he would just, with all of it, he was like my biggest cheerleader, and he just would have been floored. And anyway, we were standing in the wings, waiting to hear, before top 15 and before like Mrs. Fitness was awarded and all that. And the guy that comes out and performs, because they do like intermission performance, he starts singing, I Did It My Way. And that was the song that my dad requested for his funeral. And that was playing.
Oh,
And in that moment, it was a lot of emotions because like his family was there, and I knew he would have been like so all about that and proud and wanting to be there. And I just had this feeling. I knew that something positive was going to happen. I knew it. It was like a sign. Like, even if I don't win, like I knew something was going to happen. And then sure enough, I was standing there, and they said for Mrs. Fitness. And I just kind of knew it. I was like, I think they're going to call my name. And they did. And it was like, Mrs. Nebraska. And I was like, what?
that's so
And I go
cool.
out there and yeah. And
Try not to cry maybe at the same time since you're now thinking of
oh
your dad.
yeah. And it was so cool because when I was back there in the wings, there was a bunch of other gals with me because we were on that side of the stage that we had to be on. And they were, and the women I made a lot of great connections and friends with women at nationals as well, because there was so many amazing women there, like you said, and we got to know each other really well in those like 10 days that we were there. So, and they were being really supportive because I kind of explained to them, like, because I was just, feeling all the emotions, and I knew my family out in the crowd was definitely feeling those emotions too during that moment. So it was really cool to have them kind of rally around me and like, oh, like, you got this,
Yeah.
we're here for you, he's with you, and this is a sign. And that's how I definitely felt about it and took it. So it was a special moment. I'll definitely never forget those moments ever. So it's all just been an amazing year. Lots of great things have happened that will always stay with me and that have really changed me and have impacted me in a positive way, and I've grown a lot this last year. I didn't really know how much like growth I would do. But when I was circling back, when I was talking about, when I stood up and told my story in front of this large sea of women, I was just kind of like, I'm not really sure I'm going to go with this, but I knew where I was going to go with it. I kind of jump around a lot in stories, which I'm sure you've noticed, but, um, but, doing that, like just something like that, I wasn't nervous about. I felt like I could be open and honest and make an impact with them, especially because a lot of them were current teachers that are teaching those young kids and that, are dealing with kids that are going through what I went through. And so I thought it was important to share that. But yeah, it's just been an amazing year with so many positive things that have happened. And people think about pageantry and stuff, and they, you just think about the glitz and the glamour, or that it's, self-centered or, vapid or something like that. But there's so much more to it, whether it be maybe you've just, some of the women that I've competed with have overcome cancer and they're wanting to, get back out there, or they really want to get better at public speaking, or, they just feel like they haven't had a chance to do much for themselves because they're taking care of family constantly. So they just want to kind of, do something for themselves. There's so many different reasons why, us adult women get into pageantry and do something like Mrs. Nebraska. So I encourage women to go for it, and to, I both times running, I look back at it with positive experiences, always self-growth, always positivity. It's always bettered me. So
That's great. Yeah, Adira said something like that too when she ran, because I'd asked her and she said
yeah,
something
a few times.
yeah, something similar. She just said I was like, what motivated you to do this? And she said, I wanted to do something for myself. I wanted to challenge myself at something, and that was part of her motivation of where she drew that from. So, no, absolutely. Yeah. That's cool. Well, this has been really cool. So now, I mean, you've had a busy year and a lot going on. Sounds like you just stay busy anyway, as we kind of talked about a little bit
Yeah.
ago. So after you get past June, anything in particular kind of next, or is it kind of just like let it slow down so you can be with the family more? Or what's that going to mean?
Let it slow down. I say let it slow down, but we've got sorry, my camera's moving. Hold on. Let
No
me
worries.
stabilize it. I'm good at figuring out how to stabilize the camera. Okay. So yes, slow down, but at the same time, we've got Olympics coming up, which is we're an NBC station. So
Oh
sorry,
yeah.
once again, we're an NBC station. And so that's going to be busy. Then we've got like state fair. So work-wise, it's going to be really busy, even though I'm going to be done with Mrs. Nebraska. But I do plan to continue with my program, Readers Today, Leaders Tomorrow. I'm in the process of getting a website up for that. It's going to be, I'm not totally sure, but I think it's going to be rtlt.us is probably what it's going
Okay.
to be. But that's so Readers Today, Leaders Tomorrow, .us. And so I've been working with a couple of other different groups, and there's talk about, maybe taking this nationally. But again, that takes sponsorships and things like that. So in traveling and speaking in different regards, perhaps nationally with, different organizations or with classes and things like that, and kind of sharing my story and how we can help kids moving forward into, having those positive relationships with the word on a page. So
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, hey, Alyssa, this has been so much fun to visit with you, and congratulations on all your accomplishments and everything this last year, and best of luck to you kind of as you move forward and through the busy stories this summer and your platform, Readers Today, Leaders Tomorrow. That's awesome. I'll be excited to see where that goes and all the work you'll put into it.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's been great getting to know you as well. And thank you for what you're doing. I think this is awesome. I love podcasts. So we appreciate it because it's not easy to do what you're doing either. So
Great. Well, I appreciate it. It's been fun. Thanks a lot, Alyssa.
thanks.
That was fun visiting with Alyssa. It's awesome that she's out in central Nebraska representing the state as Mrs. Nebraska and also being successful as a news anchor. I wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. And also, I'm glad that you joined us, and I wish you luck in whatever you've got going on too. Until next time, this is How to Speak Nebraskan.